It was many years ago, even though it's still difficult to talk about. But I found my uncle murdered. He was my best friend in the world. Some drug or alcohol, issues, addiction issues. And then you're faced with some sort of a trauma, whatever that event might be. For me, I don't know the exact time, 10 years about suffering in this loop of like, I feel pain, I feel scared, I feel discomfort, I feel fear, and like whatever that was, like I would just loop that feeling. I wasn't an Adderall addict, I was cocaine, alcohol, and pills. All of a sudden I realized I'm an everything addict. So that loop continued.
You could have given up, but you didn't. You could have stopped believing, but you didn't. You could have kept living their expectations, but you decided to make this life your own. And in turn, you're here. Hello, everyone. Today we're meeting Michael Ruder. He is an entrepreneur, a speaker, and mental health advocate. Hello, Michael. Thank you for joining us today.
Anna, hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very grateful to be here.
Thank you. So let's start a conversation by exploring your journey of becoming the person you are today. What was the pivotal moment in your life where you realized that you have this passion of helping other people to go through mental health challenges, and that this is something that inspires you and motivates you to move forward?
So, well, I love that we're just kind of having an open conversation here, and I haven't been able to prepare anything. So this is good. The pivotal moment for me. So it wasn't necessarily like something I had planned or, the way I expected my life to unfold or anything like that. It was sort of, some traumatic and events that have occurred in my life. And those were, major obstacles in my life journey here. And it was kind of what I did to sort of overcome them and and move forward. So the most pivotal moments I've ever had was, I talk about this often because I think it's important to the story. And it was many years ago, even though it's still difficult to talk about. But I found my uncle murdered. He was my best friend in the world. I graduated college. I went and worked with him. We were buying and selling precious metals jewelry, and we had been set up. It's a long story. It would take up many hours for me to tell that whole story. But basically we got set up, and we were working together, and I called my uncle. He wasn't answering. I went to go check on him at our jewelry store, and he had been killed, and he was shot 10 times in his face and 5 times in his body. I was 23 at the time. So to give you a reference, I'm 30, about to be 39 now. So it's been quite some time. But seeing what I saw and finding my uncle and my best friend like I did, that really kind of set off, post-traumatic stress disorder, mental health. I like to say that I was a drug addict and alcoholic after that happened, and that's why. But I think truly I was before that, and that just kind of added fuel to the fire. So for the next 10 years, I was living through struggling and suffering from the drugs and the alcohol, and then also the post-traumatic stress disorder, and all the things I had to overcome, with what I had seen, and the void of not having my uncle anymore.
Yes, so this is something I would encourage people to see, that you created a documentary that's called Making Mike.
Yes.
And I will also include that in the show notes, the link for people to watch, and it's free, so everybody can access that. And it will tell the whole story behind what you just said. And yeah, like you mentioned, you've been through a lot of trauma. Because seeing something that you've seen, somebody's been murdered, and you've seen like this person being alive yesterday and today he's gone, and it was
Right.
so unexpected. And that person was somebody like very close to you, like your close friend, even like maybe like your parent figure in a way, right? So
Yeah.
you were being so attached to him, and all of a sudden somebody decided to take his life. And of course it creates a lot of disturbances in your psychic, I would say, in your mental health. And um and usually it kind of like triggers something within you, right? That you have to deal with now. So, like, you've been pretty much in a position where you have to face all of the issues, all of the fears that came up for you all of a sudden that you didn't even expect at the age of 23. And
Right.
then you had courage to really like go through them. And it's not been easy because you struggled with addiction as well. Like you mentioned, even before that incident happened, you started kind of like using some substances, but it
Mhm.
wasn't to the point where you felt uncomfortable. Now that everything came up, you were using it as a tool to escape. Really, you
Right.
didn't want to face the unpleasant emotions that came with that. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, absolutely. So like it's really interesting, you know, if I kind of like, go to the side and like look at myself, not as myself and just look at like my journey I had, and obviously it's really personal to me, but if I kind of like try to make it not personal and look back, it's really interesting like the way these things kind of happen and the way they unfolded, and very similar in the way things happen to other people, some drug or alcohol, issues, addiction issues. Then you're faced with some sort of a trauma, whatever that event might be. And then for me, I spent, I don't know the exact time, 10 years about suffering in this loop of like, okay, I feel pain, I feel scared, I feel discomfort, I feel fear, and like whatever that was, like I would just loop that feeling to like I need to alleviate that feeling. So it was like
Yes.
alcohol, cocaine, gambling, women, certain pills at times. I got into pills pretty bad at one point. I'll talk about that later. But so what, and that loop just went around and around and around. And like in that loop at like my lowest points of like the depression and the fear and the paranoia, because the person who killed my uncle, wasn't caught right away, and I knew who it was.
Right.
Which if you people do watch the documentary, they'll see that. But so almost my whole life was discomfort, and at the very lowest part of the depression and the nervousness and the scaredness and the abuse and all that was always
Mm-hmm.
suicidal thoughts and things like that. So, it got, for me, it got as bad as it could possibly get. And I would like to say that I'm courageous and I'm better than other people, all these things, but that's just not the case. The reality of it is it got so bad, which was the most grateful thing that I'm for in my life. Like that it got so terribly bad that I literally, I didn't have a choice anymore. I decided no more of this. I'm done. I'd hit a wall, but that wall took 10 years to hit. I mean, 10 years of pain and suffering and abuse
Right.
and all this kind of stuff. The only thing I would change about my story or my journey would be that I wish I would have hit that wall sooner in my life. So I didn't have to endure such a long period of time of discomfort and pain, and not only for me, but putting my family and close friends and stuff like that through it as well. Um, so yeah, that was, I would say, what your analysis that you had said was, yeah, it's completely accurate. It's been a wild ride for sure. But, the
Mm.
the best thing in the world is like um is to overcome something like that, and then have those experiences and understand. Once I started to like learn and educate myself on like why, that's why I said that loop. I really did a lot of
Yes.
therapy, and tried to understand myself as like my own science experiment. Like, why am I acting the way I'm acting? Why are my behaviors the way they are? Why can't I just be happy? Like, my goal ended up being I just want to be happy. That was it. Like, I truly just want happiness. And
Mm-hmm.
it took a lot of experimentation to like get there, but finding the other side of like that trauma and that pain and that addiction and that discomfort is like, oh my gosh, it's the most beautiful thing in life, because you have quite a perspective.
Yeah, I think sometimes we need to kind of like um, face certain challenges in life, like some kind of not even trauma, but something that will show you that the pain that you've been through, right? So it always has the other side of it. There's always like two faces of the coin, right? But we sometimes going through experience don't see it right away, especially being in the moment. When we're caught up in the moment, we feel like we're suffering and we don't see the gift that is given to you at this present moment, if you're aware, if you're willing to face it and really embrace yourself as you are and help yourself to get out of this situation with everything that you have available. You have support, you have tools, it's really comes down to your own decision. You have to make a choice, right? And it's
Absolutely.
always up to you. If you feel that responsibility for your own health, if you prioritize your mental, your physical, your emotional health enough to do something about it, you will do it. But like you said, some people have to hit that rock bottom for them to really be in a position with when they don't have any choice left but to get up. But
Yeah.
you don't have to come to this point.
No.
Don't.
No, you don't. I mean, I see like that's the point that I think it takes a lot of people to like kind of wake up and they say I don't want to live like this anymore. So that's a beautiful thing is hitting the rock bottom. But yeah, you don't have to. I mean, I had to hit it a couple times in a couple different ways to be able to, have the courage to say no more. I'm taking steps forward for the rest of my life. So, for example, I woke up on a hospital bed in August of 2000 and what was it, 18 maybe? I believe, and I had come off like a, you know, 4-day cocaine bender, alcohol. I was in like a psychosis. I remember my arm was like numb from like my neck all the way down to the end of my arm, and it was just bad. My mother somehow ended up showing up to where I live, and she took me to the hospital. And I remember telling her I thought I was gonna die, and remember telling her also I'll never do this ever again. I need this to stop. And I woke up in the hospital bed, kind of opened my eyes a little. I woke up in the hospital bed, and this is 100% true. What happened? I woke up that day and I said, I will never use alcohol or cocaine ever again in my life ever, and I will do whatever it takes not to, and however hard it takes, however long it takes, I'll just take a small step forward every day. And from that day I woke up in the hospital bed, I've never used alcohol, I've never used cocaine. I have gotten into trouble with some other things and relapsed in other ways that I've learned as well, which I'll talk about. Um, but I had to hit that bottom point, and the catalyst that propelled me into getting to that rock bottom was actually, my uncle's murder was the worst thing that ever happened
Yes.
for me. Post traumatic stress disorder, fear, paranoia, anxiety. The killer's out there. He's going to kill me too. I had to work with the FBI and help them solve the murder because I knew who did it. The FBI ended up picking the case up from Baltimore City. No one could know I was doing these things. I didn't want to tell my family because I knew the pain and suffering it would bring to them. I didn't want to hurt them. It's their uncle too. And this guy was magical. It was just an electric, energetic, my favorite person ever to walk this earth. And I couldn't tell other people about it because it's a private, FBI
Right.
criminal case going on, and also I was running a business and a life. I didn't want anyone to know that I was suffering and struggling and all that. So hiding it all and stuffing the pain under the rug, like worse and worse. Now, and when I hit to the age of 30, my dad got diagnosed with cancer. He ended up dying 8 months later. And I held him, when he took his last breath, I'm holding him in my arms. And right after he died, 3 out of my 4 grandparents died over the next 6 months. So 4 people I love died within 6 months. I buried my last grandmother in the same hospice, or I watched her die in the same hospice my dad had died 6 months earlier. So all that death, all that drug use, all that fear, all that paranoia, all this bullshit, all these years. My dad's death, truly, like grandparents' death is difficult and it was more stacking because it was so many.
Right.
But like to lose your parent at a young age like that. Now, the beautiful part of it, the flip coin is this. My dad's death sent me off into such a deep spiral. I got sober. His death pushed me and said, "All right, go see this life for a little bit longer and then realize you don't want to live this way. This isn't who you want to be." So my dad's death, if he didn't die, I might not be sober today. I might not have become wealthy in regards to, what I deem as wealth. I can take care of myself. I could take care of my mother, my wife, my family. You know, I might not have my health like I have it. I might not be able to talk and speak and give hope and inspire others and things like that. So my dad's death ended up being a beautiful thing for me. And sometimes it takes some time to get through all that difficult stuff to be able to see what the bright side is of all this. And now I just look at everything I can, even the darkest of times, as there being a bright side to it. So, but yeah, when you're going through it, you're in a web. You don't think it's ever going to end. And statistically, the hardest thing to say, the saddest part, is that most people don't get out of the web because they can't see, which I couldn't either at the time, that life can be beautiful. It's a very hard thing to get to.
Yes, definitely. And a lot of losses that you experience in your life, people dying in your family, like your uncle, and then part of your family, your dad, your grandparents, it's also a lot of grief that you need to process. That is a specific emotion that has to go through your body. Like you have to allow it to feel. Sometimes people make themselves numb and not feel it, like again, avoid it. But this is something that, again, you need to process in order to kind of let it go, because it changes you as well to be able to function in your daily life without this person, because it was part of your family, right? So I feel like a lot of times we avoid emotions in our life with all of the distractions that we have, social media, TV, you name it, right? Again, substances, addiction, everything is a way for us to escape that present moment, to not deal with the difficult situations, to not face the unpleasant emotions that might rise up for us. But usually, it's not really for us to suffer in a way. It's just for us to kind of like pay attention. It brings our attention to what is going on right now in our body, right? So we have to make time for ourselves to make sure we process everything like on a daily basis in order for us to feel better, to let go, to really um, get through any turbulence that might arise, because everything will change. There is nothing that is stable, constant. The only constant is change, right, in our lives. So we kind of have to embrace that and be ready for anything that throws in our life, but also be willing to process everything that comes up. But I think that comes with awareness. So what helped you to really become present in that moment to deal with everything that came up for you? I know you're talking about people in your life, the support system, because I also think it's important to really surround yourself with people who help you to get through this. Like you said, your mother helped you
Yeah,
when she was in the hospital. And also, like, it reminds you, sometimes we don't see the light in the end of the tunnel. What's the point of this life anyway, right?
yeah,
And then you remind yourself, oh, maybe there are people here that, I'm also kind of like, in a way, responsible of being here and
yeah.
to take care of myself. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I can say you're very wise. Everything you say really resonates with me. You really understand this stuff. But yeah, like, so I guess a strong, the most important thing, without a doubt, that I've come to realize, and this is through my own experiences and what I've seen with other people as well, but really I try to just speak on my own experiences and then let others take what they want from it. And I always say, like with myself, like, you're your own science experiment. So you need to try things and see what works for you and what doesn't. And sometimes, this medicine might not work, or this therapist might not work, or being around this group of friends or whatever.
Right.
And you need to like position yourself in the best possible, scenario with everything, where you live, who you live with, all that kind of stuff, to live that balanced life that you want to live and be happy. There was something you had said there, and believe me, it took me years and years and years to get to the balance I have now. And I'm not perfect. Every day is not perfect, but I am doing something every day now that is a game changer. But it took so long to get to this point. And it's something you had said there, in the moment. So like,
Mm.
in the moment, living in the moment, it's way easier said than done. But if you can achieve being able to live in the moment for, the large percentage of your day and every day in your life, you can then I think live a happy, healthy, balanced life the way you want to, because you can process things as they come and take
Right.
time to feel them and things like that. So when my uncle died, I didn't want to ever see that image again in my head. That it was a gruesome image, and it comes up. The post-traumatic stress disorder. You didn't get to choose when it comes and when it doesn't, but
Mhm.
it does. But you want to find a way to numb from that and hide from it. The thought that he's gone, my dad's death, all this stuff, whatever it is, the shame and the guilt from the drug, whatever it was, I swept it all under the rug. You sweep it under the rug, and I didn't realize
Mm.
that it's waiting for you. It's still under there. You got to do something.
Yes.
So it took me so long to revisit my dad's death, revisit my uncle's murder, come to terms with the fact that I have addiction issues. Once I was able to really address those things and process it correctly, I did this very special type of therapy that was wonderful for me. Um, and when I did that therapy, I had an experience where I really got into the moment, and it was the most comfortable I had ever felt in my life. Sort of like a drug, but not a drug. And I was like, I just don't want this feeling to ever end. And ever since
Right.
that happened, I've been trying to live my life in the moment, the best I possibly can. So, easier said than done. If you've been messing around with drugs and alcohol and things that, aren't healthy choices and positive for your life for so long and you don't want to anymore, well, you can't just snap your fingers and then be at some balanced point. You got to swing the pendulum all the way the other way and do the things
Mhm.
you need to do, and then get yourself into that happy medium middle. Now, things that cause me pain or discomfort or something like that, they come into my life. I feel them. I live with it. It's okay.
Mhm.
It's for a moment. Doesn't matter.
Yes.
It is what it is. But I don't fight it. I don't. I want to feel it. And
Right.
the fact of the matter is, there's really not many things that cause me pain or discomfort, unless it's someone I love, and they're very, like, I have a really close friend of mine who was just diagnosed with cancer, and I've been
Mm.
crying and stuff and feeling that. That's very painful, very hurtful, very scary. If it's not something like that, to me, it doesn't really bother me anymore because I've been through so
Yes.
much. So I have those experiences to realize what matter and what doesn't. So that perspective is huge. But yeah, those words you said, in the moment, that's where you want to live. That's where you want to be. And
Mhm.
through my experiences, I always tell people, don't worry about something until there's something to worry about, no matter what it is.
Definitely.
Uh, you know,
Yes.
until your mind will play tricks on you. I read this book. Um, the Untethered Soul. I really like that book. But your mind will take you. It talks a little bit about this. Your mind can take you in a million scenarios, normally negative scenarios.
Mhm.
So maybe it's something as simple as you get an email at work from your boss, and all of a sudden you go down these scenarios. You're going to get fired, or you didn't do this right, you didn't do that right, and everything's negative. And then you go see your boss 3 days later, and they're like, "Hey, we were going to give you a promotion because," and you didn't know, and you spent 3 days suffering because your mind took you to all these negative things.
Mm.
Just an example, but the moral of the story there is just, you know you stay in the moment and realize that nothing is until it actually is. I mean, until there's something to worry about, there's nothing to worry about.
Right.
So I try and
Yes.
practice what I preach. I have a daughter. She's 6 months. It's been the most beautiful
Oh.
experience of my life. I will say, I got sober and I changed my life for me. I didn't do it for my mom. I didn't do it for my sister,
Mhm.
who I love more than myself. I didn't do it for um, my now beautiful wife, amazing life I have with her. I didn't do it for my father who passed and my uncle or anyone. I got sober. I changed my life. I did it for me. That was crucial. I had to do it for me. And then in turn, other people get to reap the rewards and the benefits of me being, the healthy, loving person that I'm supposed to be. When I had a
Wow.
daughter, that changed. I now am sober for me, but for her too. As I have a human that I created,
Mm.
and their life is dependent on my health and the choices and the things that I do, and the choices that I make. So having that daughter was quite an experience for me, because it was the first time experiencing, like, this deep responsibility. Because before it was
Mhm.
just responsibility for myself, and the things that I do. So I forget where I was going with that, but yeah, that's been
No,
that.
it's beautiful.
Yeah,
Yes. Thank you for sharing. And I think also, apart from responsibility, you know what unconditional love is. And you experience now firsthand. And I think it reminds you also to love yourself
yes,
because we have to really like establish that deep connection within ourselves and start loving ourselves no matter what we've been through, no matter what situation we overcame, right? A lot of times people identify themselves by the experiences that they had
Hmm.
or what they've been addicted to. And, it's not who you are. You more than that. It's
Right.
just been maybe your experience at the moment in the past, right? But you've got through this and you decided for yourself that this is not who you are, so you deserve better. And that was something that really changed your life. And now looking back, you realize that it was for the better. Everything that happens to you, it brings your attention to something that you can take control over and change your life, right? You are the one in control of changing anything that you want. If you look around and it's something that you're not satisfied with, you're not fulfilled with, either your job, your relationship with yourself or another person, it's up to you to change it, right?
Right.
And the question is, are you willing to take steps towards change? Because not everybody is ready. For them, maybe they need to hit that rock bottom or, come to the point where, they have no other choice but no, but this is not usually the case. Sometimes people realize it sooner, and it should be something that we're really aware of, and we always, kind of check in with ourselves, how we're feeling, is everything in our life how we want it to be, and if we know where we're going, what is the direction that we're going, right? We have
Right.
to have that kind of GPS, that compass in our head, and know what we want in life and who we want to be. What are the values that you stand upon? What are your values that like you're proud of? Are you embracing and embody those values? Can you be a role model for your, let's say, daughter or son, right? Because they're gonna look up to you and they're gonna copy what you're showing them.
Right.
Are you proud of yourself? So this is something we always have to remind ourselves, and to, there is always room for improvement, but through that, we have to still love ourselves no matter what. We don't have to have that negative self-talk and put ourselves down because of
Yeah.
what we've been through.
Yes, so that is like insanely huge for me, and I think very beneficial and helpful for others. So you're talking about negative self-talk and loving yourself and things like that. So when I was making bad decisions and negative decisions,
Yeah.
and when I was treating myself poorly, and when I was suffering, and when I was depressed, and when I was using drugs, and when all these things, right, they all point to one thing, all of it, it's my mindset's either one way or the other. When my mindset was a victim, so for years, like for those 10 years I was suffering, whatever I say, I was a victim, like in my mind. My uncle was murdered. That wasn't supposed to happen to me. I was addicted to drugs and alcohol. Like I'm not supposed to be a drug addict and an alcoholic. My dad got cancer. I wasn't supposed to have a dad who died, at a young age. I was supposed to bury my grandparents right after him. I wasn't supposed to be, and this is stuff like I experienced shame and guilt with that I have since processed and I'm very comfortable with now. But I wasn't supposed to be someone whose dad is dying of cancer in a hospice, and I'm in the bathroom while he's in the bed dying, and I'm snorting cocaine and using alcohol behind everyone's back. Like, what? I'm looking in the mirror. I don't recognize this person. Who am I? And I'm a victim. It's because all these things happened to me. That's why. It's not my fault. Blah blah blah. When I woke up that day I told you about in the hospital, I had learned,
Mhm.
I didn't realize it, but like I had my mindset changed. That's what changed. And like from that day to now, I've built upon that confidence and that mindset change and that way to see things in a positive light, and that things don't necessarily happen to me. They just happen. As cliche as that sounds, they do. And it's like, how do you want to
Yeah.
react to them? How do you want to process it? So those extreme situations that they took me so long to learn how to process them and all that, they were an incredible blessing to my life, because now, almost I don't can't really think of anything I've been able to experience or that's been able to happen now that happens to me, and I'm a victim of it. You know,
Mm.
I have the power to feel how I want to feel or think how I want to think or react how I want to react. The victim mentality was an excuse to keep using drugs, to keep using alcohol, to keep making negative decisions. Although I didn't really understand all of it when I was in it, it was what was happening. And then when I was able to get out of it and start moving forward, it's really cool because you start stacking little wins and you start
Mm.
making good decisions and you start feeling better and you start realizing what's possible. And then that takes a long time. You know, you got to swing the pendulum, all the
Mm-hmm.
wins. And then you can, and then I fell back. I got addicted to Adderall, 2 to 300 milligrams I was taking a day. It was a terrible addiction. It was sickening. I won't go into it too much, but I had to then go back to rehab, go back to therapy. Understand that was just, I wasn't an Adderall addict. I was cocaine, alcohol, and pills. All of a sudden I realized I'm an everything addict. So that loop continued, but I didn't have a victim mentality at that point. I had a better mindset, so I was able to get out of it faster and just really learn from all those experiences and all those things. But by no means do I sit here talking to you today, Anna, like I am fixed. I have a beautiful, I mean, I have a beautiful life. I, I attracted this wonderful woman. I married her, a beautiful daughter. You know, I have a beautiful mother, siblings, in-laws, everything. My life is absolutely beautiful. When I was gonna, this is a good way to put it. When I was gonna marry my wife, I asked my father-in-law, "I'm gonna marry your daughter if you let me," you know.
Mm.
And and I was nervous, and he said, "Michael, do I have to worry about your past? That's something you want to ask me." And I remember I told him, I said, no, you don't have to worry about my past, and either do I. And I can promise you, you never have to worry, but only for today. I told him, you don't have to worry about me, only for today. Today I'm good. I know that today I'm good.
Mm.
Same thing I'm talking now. Today I'm good. I don't take this for granted. Like I know where my brain can get, where my body can get, where my addiction can go, and I know I'm one bad choice away from starting back down a victim and a negative road. So every day I wake up and I just go down the right road. That's it. I'm going down the right road today, and I go down that road, and it's a beautiful road, and you owe it to yourself. And you know, you talked about loving yourself. When you're when I was victim mindset, negative, making all these bad decisions, I didn't love myself. I only felt good if I was using a drug to feel good. If I was doing something to make someone else feel good, that could make me feel good. If I did something to make my ego feel good, that could make me feel good. All these things, I had to find something to make myself feel the way I wanted to feel. And then when you flip that and realize that you don't need anything, everything you need to feel is right in here, and you just have to love yourself first in order to love other people. It's so, you know, you hear it, but it, to register it, you got to live it, you know. And I live it. I live from within here now, to the best of my
Mm.
ability, you know. So that's a
Yes.
beautiful feeling.
Yes, and like you mentioned, everything that you look in outside of yourself, like external source of validation or pleasing others or finding a way somebody can love you, it's not stable. It's all, temporary, and it's kind of like a band-aid, right? It's
Right.
not really fixing the issue, but just giving you a little relief in the moment, and then you back to the way you were. But
Right.
when you start looking within yourself and have that care and love for yourself all the time, it's kind of like you found this power. You're not longer giving that power away. You're not choosing to be a victim, but this is like a role that you used to play in the past, but it's no longer your choice, because when you choose to be a victim, you're giving away your power. But when you start taking responsibility for your own health, for your own happiness and peace, um, again, you're getting back that power, and you know that you're the one creating that for yourself. And you no longer need any substances, any people to tell you, to validate what is it that is good for you. You already know it for yourself. And that's all you need. Like, your opinion about yourself, that's the only thing that matters.
Yes. 100%. I could not agree more.
And from that place, you started living a beautiful life and you have that freedom, you have that liberation of any, again, self-imposed suffering that you've been through. And again, like in the moment, you think that something is happening to you, but it's what you kind of like, we all, right? We sometimes
Yeah.
don't realize that, but we all create that some suffering within our mind by choosing something in the moment that is not really beneficial for us. As long as we realize that over time, then we give ourselves this gift of feeling free and powerful again.
Yes. Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, you know, it's I've been really blessed with the life I've had. This, the the biggest challenges and the things I was a victim, I once a victim to, I thought have been the greatest things that could ever happen to me. Like, do I wish I never found my uncle murdered? Do I wish my dad was still alive and he was able to see his grandkids? I could cry thinking that because I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and like uncle was my biggest thing ever because I wanted to be like my uncle Wayne was, and I think I am a lot like him to my nieces and nephews, and they became my life. My nieces and nephews became my life. Um,
Mm.
kind of like my uncle, he didn't have any kids. We were his life. And then when I had my own daughter now, and it's such a beautiful thing to kind of have happened, to come from, so much pain and suffering, and to get to where I am now. But I look at those things, the most terrible things, and I just like, I have to say that I'm grateful that my dad died. Like, I'm grateful my uncle was killed and I found him. Would I rather have them? Yes, I would, but I don't. That can't be changed. So there's a way to look at it that serves me and allows me to live that they would want me to live, which is healthy and happy.
Mhm.
They wouldn't want their tragic and untimely deaths to have been the triggers to kill me and let the addiction take me down or whatever it is. They wouldn't never want that. I know that. Know them, um, and they kind of like my angels that guide me. But like they would only want the best for me. And then now these beautiful things have happened, living the way that I know that they would want me to live for me within myself. I'm able to, one of my greatest accomplishments is, you know, I could buy a nice fancy car or something, like if I want. I could get on Instagram and show people, look like I'm rich or whatever, all that stuff.
Mhm.
But, it's just not who I am. It's not what makes me happy, you know, because of all these experiences I've had. It once was. I used to think that was what's important. Now I really know what is and what isn't. But like, I take care of my mother, right? And
Mhm.
her and my father didn't have much, and we grew up in a townhouse with six of us and all this. And my dad passed, and then it got difficult for her. And one thing I was able to do is financially, you know, um, retire my mom and tell her she don't have to work. She's 75. She
Mm.
can spend the rest of her life with her grandkids. That's like my biggest accomplishment financially.
Yeah.
That wouldn't happen if it wasn't for all the bad things that happen. So like,
Mm.
my family members, friends, whatever, Michael, you're doing great. They see some things with my business and my company and all that. And most people don't understand, all those good things, they came from a place of deep darkness and deep tragedy. And that helped build the perspective and the strength and the willingness, to go to where I want to go.
And like you mentioned, it's important to have this way that we'll look at things, right? That is different from how we used to look, right? So because that sets us for either success or failure, let's say, right? If something happened unexpected, we don't have to label it as being good or bad. It's just what is. You just
Right.
accept what is. You don't have to label it. And as it happens, how do you want to choose to look at it? Do you see something that will help you to evolve to become a better person because of it? And that's all you need to focus on, right? So
Right.
you don't have to justify why it happened or, try to find the reason why it happened or like blame somebody, feeling guilty. Any anything like that chooses, like anything that you would go like down that path, it will bring you more of a suffering. But if you look at it from a different perspective, the same incident, the same experience, you can go through it with a different mindset, right? And
Right.
because of the way you chose to experience it, that's how you're gonna, get some kind of benefit out of it. So it's all again up to you, and you have that power to do it for yourself. So once you recognize it, then you start like going through life more easily. Like you said, you experienced everything, or anything that could come up no longer scares you, right? If you welcome any type of experience, any type of emotion into your life with open arms, okay, I'm ready. And the thing is, the more you do it, the less power has over you, the
Right.
easier it gets for you, and the more happier you feel. So it's kind of like the opposite. First you think it would be something terrible, but it's the opposite,
Right.
really. And you have to embrace all full range of the emotion that could come up, because again, you don't know what you will face, but your willingness to go through anything that could come up for you, that what makes a difference.
Yep. Yeah. No, I completely agree. Um, so in my business, I'm in the real estate industry. I own a title and escrow company,
Mhm.
and 2023 was a very difficult year um, for a title and escrow specifically company. You know, a lot of them went under, things like that.
Mhm.
There was a lot of discomfort. I mean, it was like, the amount of transactions we did compared to the drop off from interest rates being spiked. Won't get into all those details. Nonetheless, it was the hardest year of my career to navigate, and
Mhm.
it was difficult. There's fraud going on. There's a lot of that running
Wow.
rampant. You have to let go of employees. It's a terrible thing. It's very difficult, especially someone like me, very loving and just want the best for everyone. Very like empath type, and
Mhm.
so challenging. And I saw a lot of people really struggling with it. I'm just being completely honest. Like, it was very difficult. There's a lot of difficult decisions. I had to work hard, but it wasn't like it should have been a lot more difficult than it truly was. And I think the only reason, because I never set out to be like a business owner or an entrepreneur or anything, I didn't even think that's something that I was capable of doing. But those personal experiences that I had, because what it is a lot of people I think are scared to take that jump. I'm going to quit my job and go start my own company. I'm going to, quit doing what I'm doing here and go do this here. I'm going to go follow my dreams, follow my passions, taking that jump. All that stuff's very scary to do. I was blessed with these terrible things that happened to me, because that stuff's not scary.
Yes.
That's why I'm saying, I try and say, tell people I'm not as courageous as sometimes people try to say. And you're so can't believe you've been able to do this, and you've been a successful business owner and all these things. It's like, I was dealt a bad hand, but really that bad hand turned out to be a really good hand. By
Mhm.
the way I wanted to change the way I looked at the hand that I was dealt.
Right.
I think if my uncle and dad were still here, I don't know. I might not have my beautiful daughter. I might be a drunk still. I might be dead. I don't know. It's like, but you said something that really resonated with me, which was amazing, and it's that you said something about how you don't need to be waiting or nervous or for certain experiences or anything. You just like kind of can experience things as they come,
Yes.
and you can feel and you get to choose how you feel them, and what power they have over you, and
Mhm.
that is just couldn't be more true. But it is a lot easier to go through something and feel it the way you want to feel if you have past experiences, and you have a different lens to look at it through. So before, like I said, I was looking at everything happened to me, everything.
Mhm.
So it was like the world was like a simulation against me, which, like, now that I've got out of this web and I can look at it, like, that's just crazy. Like,
Right.
it's not. It wasn't. It still is not. It's just like, and bad things happen every day. And look at the world. You gotta. I think some tools and stuff that have really helped me is gratitude, perspective. When you look at other places in the world, the beautiful life that we get to have here in America. Um, the choices we get to make, the opportunities we get to have. No one owes you anything. Don't. It's so funny. I used to think people owed me because of all the bad things that happened. I should just give money, or someone should take care of me or something. Because all this stuff happened to me. I can't believe I once thought that way. But no one owes you anything, and no one should give you anything, especially if you're not willing to give it to yourself. So, and once you give yourself, like, once, for the greatest example of that for me is I gave myself love, and I started for real loving myself. It took a long time. I was able to love myself, who I was, my opinions of myself, and that's all that mattered. And I felt comfortable. And you know what happened when that happened? I always had toxic relationships with women, not because of them, because of me. I was trying to use women to feel a certain way about myself. And when one ended, I had another one to make me feel a certain way I needed to feel. Like, that was crazy. I didn't even understand it. And then I learned to love myself, and I didn't even need a woman, but I had wanted a certain type of partner in life. And gosh, did she come into my life from a blind date, and in the least expected time. And the third date, I told my mom, like, I'm going to marry this woman. And now she's my beautiful wife, and we have a wonderful child, and like, we communicate so well, and we love each other, and we're so respectful. And like, she picks me up where I need lifting up, and vice versa. And we're just like the perfect match for one another, which I was like not even expecting. And it didn't happen until, I loved myself, and I could make myself feel the way I wanted to feel. And so then once I got her, I knew I had the tools and the capabilities to like make her feel the way that I need to show up for her too, which has been really cool.
Yeah, I feel like the decision to start caring and loving ourselves and giving ourselves the best care possible that we can, it really ripples out into relationship with other people. So either professional, personal life, friendship, or romantic relationship, you know, you kind of like start attracting people who are also taking care of themselves. And if there are two healthy individuals come together, you create that beautiful dance where you don't have to codepend on one another. You
Yes.
just choose to be with one another, to support, to grow together. And it's a different type of relationship. And that's where you found yourself right now. And now you have a beautiful family, and you're so blessed, and you feel that. And that's because at some point you decided to really start loving yourself and give yourself what you deserve, because all of us here for a reason. There are no mistakes, right?
Right.
So if you exist, if you are here for a reason. And every one of us have our unique gifts, abilities, talents, skills that we are here to share and serve other people. But how can you at your best if you're not giving yourself what you deserve?
Hmm.
You're not really being of service, right? So it's
Right.
not being selfish to give yourself that care. I think it's essential for you to really like step into your highest version of yourself in order to serve other people, to really fulfill the purpose of you being here. So this is something that you owe yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I tried to do, I kind of like, once I started to get out of it, and so now I do this like regularly, and it's like, it's fun. Like, I look at life, and my life sort of like as a game in a way. And it's like, how good of a life can I have? How happy can I be? How good can I feel? And not how good can I feel when everything's great? Like, how good can I feel when everything's like, when things aren't great? And it's like, it's fun to keep leveling up. Like, I kind of got out of today. I'm out of using drugs and alcohol. Um, Today I, am happy and healthy. Like, so it's like every day, can I continue to feel this way? There was times even off drugs and alcohol, my anxiety and my depression were like so terrible, and I was on SSRIs, and I've since been able to get off them. Now the only thing I'm on is healthy food, balanced sleep, and exercise. Those are the most magical things in the world. I never knew it. I didn't know your stomach and gut was attached to your brain. Apparently it is.
Yes.
Like, the food, exercise, and sleep are the natural gifts that I am like better than I've ever felt. But even like physically how I look, like, a challenge to me is like, you get one life. See what are you capable of looking like what are you
Yeah.
capable of feeling like. So that's why I say like a game, I don't take things lightly and whatever. I'm serious when I have to be, but I'm also very goofy and more silly most of the time, but I look at it as a game, and it's fun. It's like working out is
Mhm.
like some as when you start, it's grueling and it's not fun and whatever. Now it's like, okay, now I can do 100 pull-ups. Now it's like I bet you I can get to 200. And how's that make me look? And how's that make me feel? And how can I keep leveling up in a positive way? And I try to treat it like that. And it's actually it makes it enjoyable. But it's true. You get one life. I mean, I'm almost 40 years old, and I want to experience things. I want to get to a point where I'm like, this was when I was in the best shape of my life. This is when I made the most money. This is when I helped the most people. This is when I had the most influence. This is when I say this. My 20s were the death of my uncle and deep in drug addiction, and it was like that was like suffering, miserable, a miserable suffering period, decade of my life. My 30s were like still sort of addicted to things and using substances, but also like sober and like doing different therapies and like trying to eat different, like trying to figure it out. Like I was like a test experiment in my 30s. And now I'm getting ready to go into my 40s with all this knowledge and experience. So it's like suffering to like some healing, a lot of healing in my 30s, and now 40s, like I'm ready to thrive. Like I'm just going to go like a rocket ship. So that's kind
Mhm.
of the way I've been looking at it. But if you look at that and you're listening to this, that's a 2-decade process to get into this third decade I'm going into to thrive. That's where I talk about the balance. Got to swing that pendulum all the way back the other way. If you're living very unhealthy, very negative, you're on this way. You got to take small steps, get it all the way to this side, then get back into that middle point where you can find where you want to feel, where you want to live. So,
And yeah, I actually like once you start choosing yourself, once you start treating yourself the way you deserve and giving yourself the best care possible, you start noticing that naturally you kind of like want to have some choices that are healthy for you, like healthy food, healthy habits. And it's kind of like you no longer feel like you're putting an effort. It's just naturally you start choosing going towards those type of experiences that are good for you.
yeah,
It's because of your willingness to give yourself something that really like is beneficial for your own like health and growth. I think it's something that we need to remind ourselves. And today, you are the youngest you will ever be.
yes,
Today, you
this
have
moment.
to really sink that in today, and you have to start making those changes like as soon as possible because time goes by. Sometimes people, say, oh, tomorrow, starting Monday, I will do something, but why not today?
Yeah,
So why are you really putting your life on hold? Time goes by, and then you look back and you say, oh, for the last 5 years, I didn't do anything. But you could have done. Again, it's your decision to start
yeah.
doing something about it.
Yeah, Anna, I'll tell you. So, I made that documentary. I've had this experience, this journey. I started this company. What I'm passionate about is like talking to people, helping people. I've helped. I've done my best to share experiences with people who suffer from a trauma and PTSD and addiction, and anyone who's suffering in different ways. Like I'm just attracted to those type of people and very passionate about it. And then it got away from me for a few years. Got caught up in entrepreneurship and the business stuff, and I realized that like although like that stuff makes me feel good and it's a means to an end, like it's how I make my money and support the people I love for right now. It's like I really enjoy this. This is where I'm meant to be, I think, and it's more in like a sharing my journey, my experiences to try to help people. The most rewarding thing I've ever received in my life was a message from someone who said they saw one of my videos
Mhm.
and they were planning on committing suicide on their birthday, and they saw one of my videos and they went and told their family. It made them raise their hand. I had a short conversation with that person through DMs on Instagram. Never spoke again. I don't know what the outcome was, but I remember thinking, wow, like maybe my experience might have saved that person's life, even for just a short period of time. I don't know what happened, and I wish all the best to that person. But so I made the conscious decision to start talking again and doing this thing I'm passionate about. You're the first podcast I've had
Mm.
in quite a while where I made the decision I want to start talking about this. I want to start doing this again, and it's something that fills me up inside. So this is just a choice that I'm making to come here. I have no motive being here today to talk to you other than that somebody might hear something and it helps them, and also personally sharing my experiences like helps me. Like it helps ground me and be like, this is where you've came from. This is where you've been. This is who you were. It's okay. I'm glad I was that person. This is who I am now. And who am I going to be tomorrow? I don't know. But today I get to make a choice and make a change for the positive, and every day I get to. So, like you're saying, you know, I made this choice to be here today that I was scared of. And it's been about 3 or 4 years since I made that documentary. I haven't taken
Ah.
steps in this passionate, loving direction that I've always wanted to, and I was having regrets. So I signed up and I said, I'm going to be a guest on podcasts. I'm just going to start talking again. So that kind of goes to with what you were just saying.
And I'm so grateful that you shared your story with us. I feel like we all have to speak up about our experiences and make it really our norm to speak about mental health and, every challenges that we go through, because we're not alone in that. Everybody is dealing with something in their life, and it's okay. And we can support one another, and it should be norm. We shouldn't be suffering alone in silence and come to the point where there is no return. We don't
Yeah.
have to come that road. And there is always something that we can really inspire others in the way that we're dealing with, or maybe learn something from somebody else. And that's okay. And we just need to really like be who we are without pretending to be somebody else, to be open about it and to embrace it fully, to really go through any challenges that life can throw at us. And again, thank you for being here,
Yeah.
sharing your thoughts and wisdom. And as we close today, please share, where can people find you online?
Yeah, so well, thank you so much for having me, Anna. Like I said, you got me back in the saddle here talking again. So I hope something I said was beneficial to somebody. And I'm just feeling grateful to be here talking to you today. You have an awesome podcast. You're,
Thank you.
you're an inspiration too. So I know a lot of people, a lot of stuff I listen to, and you're a wise, insightful soul, and you're doing good things.
Thank you.
And I can tell you do understand what you're talking about. So, um, to find me just on Instagram or Facebook or anything like that, I'm just at Michael Andrew Reuter. Michael Andrew Reuter. Reuter's RUD as in dog ER. And then if you're so kind to want to watch my documentary, I think I make about, full disclosure, I probably make a penny or two every time somebody watches it. It's on Apple TV, Tubi TV, Amazon TV, a lot of the major streaming platforms except Netflix. And it's called Making Mike. Not to be confused with Magic Mike. Although I'm trying to look like Magic Mike, it is Making Mike. So
Great.
you can,
Yes, yes. And I'll also include that in the show notes. And I'm just gonna tell people I watched your documentary and it's been so good,
awesome.
and I will encourage everybody to see the story and yeah, and to understand a struggle that person going through, your character that's been your life really. And thank you again for being on the show. It was such a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anna. I really appreciate it. I'm super grateful for you, and I'm sure your audience is as well. So
Thank you. I hope you enjoy your day.
you too.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and if you did, hit the subscribe button and share it with others. Stay tuned.